Chat, would you ever buy a triple fold phone?
Phones. You've heard of folding phones, but technology never slows down. So welcome to a phone with both. The world's first tri-fold phone. This
Try
thing,
hard.
this is the Huawei Mate XT is what it's called. So I'd heard about this thing. I'd seen
2 Ravens, 1 Odin. Best username on Twitch. 48 months. What's up, man? Welcome back.
videos online, but it's also a Huawei phone, so it's China only. So knowing that I'm never gonna daily drive it, I didn't want to like get too caught up. But it's so interesting. Like I just had so many questions. Like, what is it like to use? What are the creases like? Like, what are the trade-offs? How hard is it to carry a triple folding phone? What are the cases like? Why is it called a trifold when it only technically folds twice? I need answers. So I was like, all right, I need to get my hands on one. I reached out to D-Brand and asked, like, can you guys get me a contact where I can buy one? And I never asked questions, but they're always able to pull it off, and they did. So I spent the money, I imported the thing, and now I can give you a tour of the trifold experience. So let us start with just when it's closed, right? When it's closed, you have a pretty reasonable 6.4-inch sized phone.
The folds are actually super thin too.
Well, I mean, you know, reasonable from the front anyway. If you're just looking at it, using it, the screen gets plenty bright. It is 90 hertz, and then somehow the bezels are pretty thin and even all the way around. The top and the bottom,
Looks
the left
pretty
and the right.
okay for being
and actually,
triple folded
of course,
here.
the right side is the screen curving around the edge, so the software appropriately creates a fourth bezel to match, and it looks honestly more like a normal phone than a lot of the other foldables out there. So then using it, you know, you pretty quickly feel that it is thicker than a normal phone.
Camera so
but what's crazy is each of these slices individually is ridiculously thin, about 4 millimeters. So in total, they add up to 13 millimeters thick when it's closed, which would be pretty thick if it was a slab phone, but that's actually about the same as a lot of the other single folds, like the Z Fold 6. So then the power button / fingerprint reader combo button and the volume buttons on the right side here, they're pushed a little bit back of the center. Not the end of the world, totally usable. You're obviously going to notice that parts of the screen are a bit exposed and vulnerable if you're going to put it in a pocket or in a backpack or something. But overall, just as a regular sized single screen smartphone experience, this is actually really...
You guys remember that Windows foldable phone that actually had it wasn't a clean break, it was hinges in between? I actually sort of dig that concept. I seem to be the only one that does, though. Like, on your computer, right, you can have 2 monitors, and you don't need them to be fused together. It's fine that there's a bit of a bezel or whatever between. I felt the same with phones.
Respectable. This is like an 8 out of 10.
Because most of the time, you probably want to run 2 apps on it anyway. So it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? YouTube on one screen and Facebook chat on the other, or, you know... Or the Twitch stream on one screen and the chat on the other, etc.
Really close to the best I've seen, which is awesome. But then you open it for the first time. And from here, you get to the small tablet mode. So yes, size-wise, now we're basically matching a lot of the other folding phones out there, like Pixel Fold, Samsung Z Fold, etc. This is a 7.9-inch diagonal. That is roughly a square aspect ratio. I'll be honest.
True. YouTube on one screen, Subway Surfers on the other.
It looks fine, but I actually don't really think it was meant to operate in this form factor most of the time. I mean, why stop halfway when you're just one more fold away from greatness? But it is clearly perfectly usable like this. The crease, your first crease, is impressively small and very easy to ignore when you're actually using it. But yeah, thin bezels.
You don't see the use of a bigger screen compared to having a smaller screen.
All the way around, again, blacked out pixels on the far left-hand side this time. And there's also still a couple little folding phone tricks. Like, of course, since the main camera is on the back.
I would think to myself, no, for casual use, you don't need this big of a phone screen. But for example, industry use, like maybe you're on-setting a film recording or a film set, or, you know, you're like an assistant that you sort of need an iPad, but this one fits in your pocket. I don't know.
Like, of course, since the main camera is on the back and there's no selfie camera on these 2 panes, then this is the perfect time to take a selfie with the main camera, but get a full-size preview on the 6.4-inch screen that's still wrapped around the other side.
No, most people don't need this, for sure.
They are really good flagship quality triple cameras, by the way. I'll get to that in a second. You, of course, get all the other benefits of the display spec, the brightness,
but,
the 90 hertz.
I feel like I say this every time. I feel like it's similar to people that have multiple monitors for their computer, and someone else goes, I just don't see the reason. I have one screen. I don't see why I would need more. and then they actually try to, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like you sort of have to do it to experience it. It's not the same. It's not a comparable. Maybe 2 screens on a computer is much more useful than a bigger screen on a phone. But it's the same. It's the same thing. I think it's like you gotta experience it. I say this having never actually used a foldable phone, so I could be talking out my ass.
It's really solid. It's just a little awkward that it's twice as thick in one hand as the other, which is a little unbalanced. And then it is glass
nice
on one
try,
side,
but
and
not
sort of
good.
leather material.
Okay, thanks
on
for the
other.
review.
So it's a little bit weird in that way, but honestly, still very impressive. I feel like this is like a 7 out of 10. Still pretty close. But we're not done. So this is what we're all here for.
I still remember I had the iPhone 3GS, right? Most people did not have smartphones at this point. And I was so proud of it. And my mom's friend roasted the shit out of me for owning it. I was like, I love this phone. It's so cool. It's a smartphone. Smartphone. What does that mean? I can just do a lot of things with it. Like, oh yeah, like what? Okay, check this out. And I just whip, like, I can check my bank balance right now. I can see what's on my accounts. And she just goes something like, yeah, do you really need that feature though? Is it really useful? You could have just done that. You could have planned your life or whatever. She's like, so, and I just thought to myself, man, just give it a few years later. You'll be sitting there swiping as well. And of course, Nym was right.
Final fold, which opens this thing up to a full 10.2-inch corner-to-corner display. So this is now a full 3184 by 2232, 90 hertz OLED display, thin bezels all the way around, amazingly, with a hole punch selfie camera over to the left side, 2 creases, 2 hinges.
Yeah, the battery life's got to be ass.
Yeah, this is not an iPad mini size screen in your pocket. This is literally a full-sized 10-inch tablet in your pocket.
This thing, you got to bring a power bank, just have it in your pocket nonstop.
Incredible. Now, the more you play with it, the more you start to notice little quirks. Like, first of all, it's ridiculously thin now that it's all open. It's actually kind of disorienting to hold a tablet with a screen this big, but bezels this small, and like the whole thing is this thin. It's just kind of a marvel. And then you look at the creases, plural, because now you got 2. And you can actually see there is a small difference between the inward folding crease on the right side and the outward folding crease on the left. But they are also actually both impressively small. But like, yeah, I'm actually kind of sad that I can't like fully daily drive something like this, because it is Huawei. Like, you can kind of hack your way into getting some Google services on here, but a lot of this UI, a lot of this OS is still Chinese only. Like, it's not going to be great. It's probably missing some bands in the US too, but just wow.
I think if we want to make counter arguments for these phones, I feel like the biggest counter argument still is longevity. Longevity on foldable phones seems ass. It just seems once you've folded it enough times, it's not good anymore.
Software tweaks for the triple fold thing too. Like, when you fully unfold it, the whole UI stretches out, but is still 1 page on each side. So they've kind of just played this animation to stretch out 2 pages among 3 panels. But the animation is pretty smooth. And there is a wrong way to fold it too, by the way, and it tells you about it.
This is a tablet that fits in your pocket
pretty easily.
That's it.
The correct way to unfold it is to get the 2 on the inside, but if you unfold it the wrong way, like that, it actually tells you. It says, fold it a different way to use the device, please. You're kind of doing something weird here, which totally fair. I'll get it right next time. You kind of have to, there is a little learning curve to accordioning quickly every time, but yeah, this has to be a 10 out of 10. I mean, there's the fact that I'm able to fit.
I think I've had my phone for like 3 years now. I've cracked the display, part of the reason why I wanted to get a new one. I could have it fixed, of course, but I'm a consumer.
Is something that no other device can do. So I gotta love that. Another question I had early when playing with this is, I mean, people put cases on every phone. What are cases for this phone like? Turns out,
what up, Stocky? I'm using a VPN to cast a bunch of votes in the Iraqi election today. Who should I vote for? What? I'm sure I can help you, but good luck with that.
With a case in the box.
Maybe chat can.
Which is this thing. And so really, it's just one back piece of the phone that it can protect when it's fully closed. So this case snaps onto the back of the phone like this, and then protects also a little bit of the exposed screen on the side. So it makes sense. They don't want to get any debris
Roll
in
for
there.
force.
And then it has a kickstand on the back, which can rotate around and support it at a couple various different angles. So you can watch videos like this if you're into that. And it can also rotate out of the way to expose the wireless charging coils, because it turns out this phone also has wireless charging. And if you just flip it sideways on certain charges, you can get it to line up and work with wireless charging. So that's one type of person who will use the kick on a larger part of the screen, but you're also totally scratching the outside part of the screen you're using as a kickstand. So yeah, I'm obviously not going to recommend that. In case you're also wondering about specs on something like this, it's fit flagship specs inside, despite being these crazy thin slivers of a phone. It's the flagship 7nm Kirin 9010 chip made.
All right, Marcus, what do you think of it?
I can offset it, but the more time you use this wide open with a 10 inches of screen, the tougher that's going to be on the battery. You know, if you look at typical larger tablets, even the thin ones, the 10-inch tablets are having like 8,000 plus milliamp hour batteries pretty often. So that's probably the biggest weakness here. The speakers are also truly terrible. It's interesting because they come out of the right-hand corner and the left-hand corner when it's open, but it's so thin. It's physics. There's not enough room for big chambers for huge speakers. So the speakers are pretty tinny, pretty bad. And then there is no IP rating for it.
I cast my vote and it redirected me to the NSA website. GG. Right? It's been nice knowing you, Stocky.
Dust or water resistance. Some of the newer foldables have water resistance now. This one, not so much. And then, of course, the price is obviously going to keep some people away. But honestly, that's a pretty small list of trade-offs for something that is so like shockingly different and new that I'm impressed. This had the potential to be like the world's greatest concept phone. Remember concept phones from a couple years ago? I was like, this is getting kind of weird that people are like showing off phones they're never going to make. This could have been the coolest concept phone ever, but then they just went and decided to actually make a bunch of them and ship them. This phone also just happens to have a variable aperture lens on the main camera. So it can switch between f1.4 wide open for some real background bokeh to f4 and getting more things in focus. It happens to also have that insanely fast charging. It comes with an 80-watt charging brick, and it has fast wireless charging in a body barely thick enough to have an entire USB-C port.
More than anything, this phone is just a party trick.
Happens to come with this pre-installed screen protector that I'm just never gonna remove. It's crazy. There's just so much going on here that in this world of so many phones just being, all phones are the same these days.
I wouldn't actually buy a phone like this. I check out these foldable videos to go like, are we there yet? And every time I go, no.
It's just a little different from last year. Not a whole lot has changed. I gotta hand it to projects like this. This is just insane. They didn't have to go this hard.
I wish I had the LG Wing as well.
They didn't have to go this hard.
They didn't sell in my country.
Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one.
Peace. He didn't say much about like what he actually thought about it. I thought he just presented it. Guess he hasn't really. Oh, this is just the first impressions. That's right. He's got to review it first.
There's a best of internet daily notes. There's the new unusual memes. This thing looks insane.